Now, welcome to the Dat Confessional with Deuce, Rev, Windham, and Bryan, Bienemy.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show tonight. For all you being lazy out there, since the Saints had a bye week, we are not. Me and Bryan have been hitting the stat books hard, looking forward to this Carolina game, and trying to not let the upstart Pelicans in their preseason or the Cubs possibly winning something for the first time in 108 years distract us. This is all about Saints football, right? Hey, Bryan, how you doing tonight, man?
Doing well, my brother. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Looking forward to actually having some football played from the state of Louisiana this weekend.
Going to be a nice change of events. Last week was pretty boring. Pretty much all of the Louisiana teams had a bye week. So hopefully this week, the action will be live and direct, and we can get, kind of make up for it.
Well, I mean, that's definitely the hope. I mean, I understood the Saints, not really a choice there. Tulane, not really a choice there. But everybody was looking forward to the LSU game. But that's a can of worms we probably don't have time to in a 2-hour show to get into tonight.
No, I think there's a whole lot that needs to be said about that topic. So we'll have to save that one for another day.
Which is okay, because we definitely have enough Saints stuff to talk about with the upcoming Carolina Panther game. And I think we're just going to have to spend some time talking about how this Atlanta Falcons team might win the division. Now, let me say this before we get too deep into it. I wholeheartedly believe that the Atlanta Falcons will collapse regardless of if they get into the playoffs or become the division winners. Just history shows this team collapses. But if they win the division, the Saints' chance at the playoffs are basically gone, because at this point there's really no shot at a wild card. But we'll get into that a little bit later. First off, we've got to beat the Carolina Panthers. You there, Bryan, or did you fall out on me again? Bryan might be having a little bit of trouble, but that's no big deal, because we've got plenty of stuff to talk about. I've been pouring through stat sheets just trying to find what way we can find an edge against this Carolina Panthers defense and the offense. And let's just be quite honest, their defense is not the defense of Carolina old. And by old, I mean last year. This Carolina team is already giving up way more yards rushing and through the passing game than they were last year when they had Norman and Harper in the secondary, a couple other guys. Let me just give it to you like this. Right now, Carolina's defense, when it comes to scoring, is 22nd in the league. That is not the Carolina defense that we thought we knew, thought we were going to be facing coming into this. This is not what we were expecting at all. But that's okay. I'm happy with that, because it gives New Orleans a better chance to come in and make some surprises. Bryan, did you ever get your mic working again, or are you still out on me? If not, you might have to call back in, brother. It's like he's still having a little bit of trouble. No worries. We're still good on my end. And then we got a couple people joining us on Twitch. Hey, everybody on Twitch. So right now, let's just put it down what everybody is ranking at. Now, keep in mind, New Orleans' rankings have been kind of skewed by the fact that they just had a bye week. So their defense is no longer the worst in the NFL. Their scoring defense is no longer the worst. But before the bye week, they were 31st overall. 26th in run defense, 30th in pass defense, 32nd in scoring. Pretty much still at the bottom of the cellar. But there was definitely improvement that we've seen week by week as it's gone on. And one thing that New Orleans is doing really well, both passing and running in the game offensively. They're finding a little bit more of a balance. We've seen that the past two games. We saw it against Atlanta, even though that it didn't turn into a win. We saw Ingram get more touches. And then this past game against San Diego, Ingram and company, because it wasn't just Ingram. Lasco got touches. Hightower got touches. A lot more. Ingram had over 20 touches total, combining running and the passing game. So that's definitely a positive light to be shining on this team who, considering against the Giants, rushed, 6 times in the second half of that game. It was You're just not going to win playing that type of football. Let me go ahead and kill that for Bryan, see if he can call back in when he's... I don't know if that's just his connection that time was going out or what. But let's also get into Cam Newton. Will he play? Will he still be out? I'm not sure. I'm going to pull up and see if I can find our latest report, just because yesterday, which obviously was the game against Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and if you missed that game, I actually did miss it because I was watching my Cubs try to beat the San Francisco Giants. Carolina lost that game to Tampa Bay. They lost 17-14. Not having Cam Newton was huge, and it's still up in the air on whether he is going to come back. See, I think we mentioned it last week. When it comes to concussions, it's not something you mess around with, and both myself and Bryan felt that this is his second concussion of the year. His first documented, but we both really felt that he got rocked earlier this year. Had a head injury, but it did not go down as a concussion. Looked like a concussion to us when we watched the tape. We're not medical professionals, so we obviously are not trying to say everybody was wrong and they hit an injury. We're just saying it seems like it showed the type of symptoms, that kind of thing. And then he had a definite concussion 2 weeks ago, causing him to miss this past game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Love him or hate him, he is the best quarterback on arguably in the NFC South besides maybe two names, one of those names being Drew Brees. And honestly, I don't know if I can think of another name besides Drew Brees that I would put above Cam Newton. Just thinking right now about NFC quarterbacks. There's a couple of good young rookies, but I usually never pick a rookie to go above a vet, no matter what. I'm not picking Carson Wentz or, Dak or anybody to go above a Drew Brees or even a Cam Newton. I just don't pick rookies. Rookies seem to be in a great position. I mean, the Cowboys are a good position for Dak. I mean, he basically has a whole offense built around him. They're just lacking a solid defense. So there's a lot of tools there. But Cam Newton, he wins games by himself, kind of like how Drew wins games by himself. Tom Brady wins games by himself. And I think you can't take that away from him. So his ability to impact the game is simply huge. I mean, there's no other way to put it. So let's go over Cam Newton. Let me pull up his grades from these past few games, what I'm actually going to do, and you can follow along. There's a couple of free resources out there. I try to use these, not because I'm necessarily cheap, which some of you know me, I am pretty frugal. But I use this because I'm able to share it to other people every user. There's a couple of websites that give basic analytics, which is the big thing in the NFL, MLB, NBA. Everything right now is analytics. But ESPN Go, Sporting Charts are two of the best basic analytics sites on the market, and they're free. Some people don't like Pro Football Focus. That's fine. I personally don't. There is a website run by Saints fans called the Crawfish Boiler that I check out when it comes to grading players every week, but that usually doesn't come out till about Wednesday. But anyway, I got sidetracked on myself there. Cameron Newton, this year, when he's played, I'm going to read you the stat line. So right now he's looking at throwing 57.9%, which is his lowest since 2012. Accuracy's down. 6 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, way below what he usually does. He's not that big heavy on interceptions, and throwing for an 80.2 rating and a 48.6 QBR. That's one of the reasons why I think this guy is hurting. I think to me, it's undeniable. Cam Newton's hurt. Not just from 2 weeks ago, but overall with how his performance has been. And let me pull up one more thing. Sorry, guys. I know I should have had all this ready, but I've really just been distracted by this whole Cubs-Giants thing. I'm a huge Cubs fan, so me missing that is just not going to happen. It just isn't. I love the Cubs. So, yeah, in 4 games, Cameron Newton has only thrown 6 touchdowns, and he's only run for 147 yards. And while his average there is pretty good, 2 touchdowns, 5.1 yards a carry, Newton is not as inaccurate as he's been this year. He's not as interception prone as he's been this year. He's on pace, assuming he plays more, and at the same pace he kind of was. He's looking around 20 interceptions for the year. He's never had higher than 17, and that was his rookie season. Since his rookie season, his highest was 13. So he's definitely improved in that area. So to see him like that right now, and I hate to word it like this, but really it's to the Saints' advantage. Because right now, if there is a player that can beat the Saints because they are injured, they are lacking overall talent in terms of depth, it's Cam Newton. And that's just the truth of it. I mean, there's no way to really get around that. You know, and let me just throw you off some percentages here from their offense. Rushing fumbles. Saints have none this year. First in the league, but Carolina's only got 2. In terms of third down efficiency, Carolina's at 42.9. And this is before last night's game. Haven't adjusted for that, but we're also focusing on Cameron Newton. Rushing touchdowns per game, they're averaging right around 0.8. When it comes to drops, they're at 1.6, much lower than the New Orleans Saints, who are at 5.2, by the way. Sack percentage, 6.5. One of the reasons we're worried about Cam Newton. But here's another one. Passing yards per attempt at 7.7. That's higher than what Drew Brees is doing right now. And that's because they got that big target in Benjamin on the outside, and they still have old Reliable, the tight end at Olsen. So just by some of those that we just rattled off there, and I'll throw a couple more in, but another one that I want to do right before we move on is giveaways. 14 giveaways for the Carolina offense, not including last night. That is for 32nd in the NFL. That is worst in the league. Yeah, you heard it. Not the Saints, and the worst in the league in one stat. So we can all just enjoy that for a little bit. All right. So, yeah, if you did not see the game last night, I have to go back and rewatch it. I watched highlights and I watched bits and pieces. But Tampa Bay was able to beat the Carolina Panthers 17-14. Jameis Winston had a okay game, 18 for 30 for 219 yards and a touchdown. Rushing, they relied heavily on Rodgers. He went 30 attempts, 101 yards. Not a great stat line, but Jacquizz Rodgers, I mean, he got it done. Now, for the Carolina Panthers, they had to rely on Cameron Artis-Payne, who I'm not even very familiar with. And he went 18 attempts for 85 yards. And then everybody knows Fozzie Whitaker. He's on a fantasy team, did nothing as a fill-in. 5 attempts, 45 yards. That's not horrible, but it's not what I was hoping for. And then Greg Olsen really went off last night. 9 receptions, 181 yards. And, man, am I wishing we had a tight end who was as dependable and reliable as that guy is. So you see that there are some weapons there that Cam, I think we can cover those weapons, much like Tampa Bay was able to do. But I'm afraid of Cam Newton in that he can add that level that the Saints really will struggle against, and they have in the past. We talk about how we just dominate Atlanta, and that's certainly true. When it comes to playing the Panthers, it's a much more up and down, give and take, win one, lose one type deal. Let's throw some numbers at you. In the past, let's go back 3 years. And let's go back to 2013. The Saints are 2-4 against the Carolina Panthers. Let's go back another couple years. Let's say 2012. And then we're looking at 3-7. Yeah, 3-7 total against the Carolina Panthers. This is a team that we've struggled with consistently 4 years in the Sean Payton era. And the only time that we were really dominating them was 1 year, and that was 2010. We took 2 W's from them. The next year, which was the 11 season, we took 2 W's from them. Those 2 years. Besides that, we've either hit 500 or lost both of them. And they just seem to always find a way to have our number. And a lot of that has been Cam Newton. We hate to say that. Everybody likes to rag Cam Newton on Twitter.